Okay, so here's my next property. We just dealt with distributed property. Now we're going to look at a property called combining like terms. So before we do this, we need to go through and talk about some vocabulary. So it says another method to simplify an expression is to combine like terms. The following vocabulary needs to be defined. A term is a number, a variable, or the multiplication of a number and a variable separated by an addition or subtraction sign. So if I look at all of these, I'm going to underline them. 3 is a term because it's a number. It's a plain old number. Your x is a term because it's a plain old variable. They can also put a number and a variable together, which makes a term. There are 3 terms in this statement because they're all separated with plus signs. They can also be separated with minus signs. My next one is like terms are terms whose variables with any exponents are the same. So if I look at the first one, 4 and 10 do not have a variable. They do not have an exponent. They're alike. They're called constants. They're not going to have a letter. If I look at my next one, 2x and 7x, both my 2 and my 7 have the same variable. It's an x. And if you look, they don't have an exponent, which is why they're alike as well. My next one, 4x squared and 15x squared. So they both have the same variable, which is an x. Then we go to the exponent, which is a squared. Since they're both a squared, they're a like term. And my last definition is combine like terms. Means to add or subtract the terms that are alike. So we're going to use this first one and kind of simplify. It is really long. I go left to right. It does not matter which term you do first, second, third, fourth, last. I don't care. I go like I'm reading a book, so I can cross them off. I can box, circle, squiggle, underline. It's up to you. Highlight. Use different colored pens like I like to do. So my first term is a plain old 4, which is a plain old number. So I'm going to go all the way through. That's not a plain old number. No. Ooh, right here. We have to take the sign with it. It's not just a 10. It's a negative, or it's a minus 10. So when I combine these, that's how you're going to type it in your calculator. 4 minus 10 is negative 6. So the very first term I'm going to write is a negative 6. I'm done with those 2. They don't exist anymore. If you want to cross them off, cross them off. Then I go back to the left, kind of like a typewriter. Anyone know what a typewriter is? I have a negative 7x. That x is plain. It doesn't have an exponent. It has a number in front, that's fine. But it doesn't have anything else with it. So like this, 4x squared has an exponent, that doesn't count. My 15 has an x squared, doesn't count. I'm already done with that one. There is a 2x right here. They are alike. So again, obviously you can't type x's in your calculator, but you can type the numbers. So I'm going to type a negative 7, and then I'm going to add 2, which gives me a negative 5. So I have a negative 5, and my x just tags along. Now I'm done with those. I go back to the left. Here's my next term. It is an x and a squared, and if you look right next to it, my 15 also has an x and a squared. Again, the only thing that's going to change when we add and subtract is the number in front. So we're adding 4 and 15, which gives us 19, and then we have an x squared. So I told you it doesn't matter what order we add or subtract them in, but technically when we give a final answer, your first term should always be the highest exponent. So my first term should have the highest exponent. So I am going to rewrite this. My last term should have the lowest exponent, or no variable. So this should be my last term. So when I rewrite this, I should have 19x squared. Then it should be a minus 5x. And then finally, because my negative 6 does not have a variable or an exponent, it goes last. Okay, so here's my next ones. Got 3 examples. Here's my first term. It has a plain old x, and if you look at my next one, it also has a plain old x. So again, we're just adding the numbers. 4 plus 2 is 6, and then my x just drops down and it tags along. Now I can go to the next one. I'm going to start on the left, and I have an r, a plain old r. Negative 6 doesn't work. There's another plain old r. It's a positive 2. Then I have a negative 5. So 5 plus 2 is a 7, and my r tags along. And if you look at the 2 that are not boxed, they are plain old numbers. Be careful. Type this in your calculator, kiddos. Okay, it is a negative 6, and then I can put a minus 5, and it gives me a negative 11. Last one. They give me a 7x squared, so I'm going to find the x squared, which is right down here. 7 plus 2 is a 9x squared. I'm going to go back to the front. I have a positive 8x and a negative 8x. Those actually cancel. I had $8, I spent $8. Goes away. And then if you look, I have this lonely little guy right here. I'm going to bubble in. He doesn't have a friend, so I just drop him down. We can't forget about him. Nothing's happening.